The PlayStation 2 had no shortage of racing games, from juggernauts like Gran Turismo 4 to niche little oddities like Enthusia Professional Racing. There really was something for everyone. But in 2006, a lesser known title quietly rolled onto the scene, Corvette Evolution GT, a game that blended European touring cars with RPG mechanics and forced American branding. Welcome back to the Worst Racing Games, a series where you guys suggest racing games that you think are terrible and then we review them and rank them. This week, the sacred wheel of Worst Racing Games has chosen Corvette Evolution GT. So what exactly was Evolution GT? A hidden gem, a licensed cash grab, or something in between? Let's find out. Evolution GT was developed by Milestone, an Italian studio with a strong background in motorsport games. You might know them today for games like Ride or the MotoGP series, as well as the absolutely fantastic Hot Wheels Unleashed games. On a side note, there was a DS version developed by Island Racing Studios, but this would not be released until 2 years later, in 2008, and we will not be covering that today. So, originally released in Europe simply as Evolution GT, the game featured a variety of real-world cars and circuits with a serious tone and simulation-ish inspired gameplay. However, when it arrived in North America, things changed. Because yes, the North American version received a rebrand emphasizing one iconic name, Corvette. This was largely a marketing move. Despite the title, the game is not exclusively about Corvettes, and really isn't any different to the Evolution GT version we got in Europe. In fact, Corvettes only really make up a small portion of the car list. Now, before we go any further, if you're a big fan of racing games, or in this instance, kinda not so good racing games, then why not hit that subscribe button and tap the bell for notifications to stay up to date with the Worst Racing Games series. And if you want to be the first to know about upcoming videos and upcoming Worst Racing Games, then join my Discord server using the link in the description below. Anyway, that's enough plugging the channel, let's get back to Corvette Evolution GT. So what kind of game is this? Well, at its core, Corvette Evolution GT is a simcade racer, a hybrid of simulation physics and arcade-style racing. Cars feel grounded with weight and momentum, but the handling is forgiving enough for casual players, for the most part. So when you get into the game, you end up with a tutorial cutscene featuring real-world driver Gabriele Tarquini, who explains the basics of racing and the mechanics of the game to you. Interestingly enough, he is only dubbed in one language: English.
Hi guys, I'm Gabriele Tarquini. Everyone dreams of being a champion race driver. But what does being a race driver mean? Winning races and championships is easier said than done.
The game has a couple of different modes for you to try. You have Quick Race, where you can choose any track, any weather and any car. You have Multiplayer, which is the same thing but split screen. And then we have the Career mode. And the Career mode is where the game shines. Because here you don't choose your cars, you build your driver. This is where the RPG elements come in. You train stats like reflexes, vision, braking, and even intimidation. Yes, intimidation. If you are scary enough, the AI drivers will actually give way and panic when you're behind them. When you start your career, you have to choose a driver name, and you also then have to join a team. There are a variety of real-world branded teams that you can join, and of course I had to join Pepsi Max. So my driver is called Chump, and he is a driver for Pepsi Max. So as I briefly mentioned, yes, the cars do feel quite grounded. Each car that you drive feels different, brakes differently, turns differently, and for the most part, it's going for a realistic style of handling, and it works pretty well. Am I good at it? Not really. Did it annoy me a little bit? Yes, but it works very well. Don't get me wrong, there were a couple of moments throughout my hours spent on this game where the handling felt very mixed. Suddenly I was very light and floaty, and on the next corner I'd suddenly feel like I was driving a tank. But overall, it's pretty solid. Races take place on real-world circuits, and this time it's not just about winning races, it's about progressing your driver through a motorsport journey. Over time, you'll unlock new teams, car classes, and rivalries, and it creates a sense of momentum that few other PS2 era races attempted at such a level of depth. Now, of course, because this is a worst racing games episode, there's always going to be a but. And the big but here is the AI. So the AI has been created in such a way that they're supposed to feel like they are real racers. And it kind of works too well because they make so many mistakes that feel like they're human that they cause a lot of problems to your race. Quite regularly, they'll slam into the back of you, swerve into the side of you, even on a straight piece of track. Whilst at first it can be quite fun trying to glide your way through all the crowds of AI, sometimes they just crash in such a ridiculously unnecessary way that it just really ruins the race for you, because if you make one or two mistakes in the game, then it could be race over for you. On top of this, I previously mentioned the intimidation mechanic, which in idea is kind of cool, but in reality doesn't work that well. When you've intimidated an opponent, they start swerving all over the place, making it harder to overtake them than it was to just accelerate past them without the intimidation. And then the intimidation also works on you, so when you do get intimidated by an opponent, you end up with a very blurry vision, making it very hard to see what's coming up. Thankfully, there is a mini-map that you can use to kind of guess the corners, but sometimes it can cause a lot of issues. Again, I appreciate the idea behind it, and I think it is a very cool mechanic that just hasn't been implemented very well. Now, as well as an intimidation mechanic, there's also a rewind mechanic that seems a bit more fair than it was in newer games such as Forza, where it has a charge up and a limit to how much you can rewind. So if you do make a mistake, you can try and rectify it, but if you don't have enough of the stat for the rewind, then you won't be able to go back far enough. Which again, I quite like the way this is implemented, but a lot of the time your crashes will be caused by idiotic AI and no amount of rewinding will be able to fix that. Now, much like the entry we looked at last week, Corvette Evolution GT features a damage mechanic with full damage models to the cars. It works pretty well, it doesn't affect your car's performance in the race, but if your health bar does go to 0, you are out of the race. Which is fine if you don't make mistakes, but you're less likely to make a mistake than you are to be crashed into by one of the fellow racers. Now, if you've made it this far into the video, simply just comment Corvette in the comment section down below. Now, despite the name, the car list goes far beyond Chevrolet. You'll find vehicles from Vauxhall, Audi, Mercedes, Renault, and yes, of course, a few different types of Corvette. Although they only make up 4 out of the 35 car roster. This weird mix gives the game a unique identity, European race cars alongside American muscle. Each car, as I mentioned, handles noticeably differently with varied acceleration, braking, and turning behaviour. The game also features a large list of tracks in real-world locations such as London, Barcelona, and Valencia. It's a nice surprise to see attention given to technical layouts that favour driver skill over raw speed. Is every track good? No, because there's like nearly 30 of them. But for the most part, a lot of them are very good and there's a nice level of variation so you don't get bored. Well, at least not bored of the tracks. Evolution GT isn't about collecting 400 cars like Gran Turismo, instead it's about mastering the few cars that you do have. Each victory earns experience points that you can spend on stat growth in a variety of different areas. This is the driver upgrade system, which I have touched on briefly already. It makes every race feel different. Want to be a sharp passer, improve your reflexes, want better cornering under pressure, train your braking and steering, want to spook rivals into making mistakes, well then, as I said, boost your intimidation. It's a rewarding loop that encourages skill development and different styles of racing, not just crash your way through, like I tend to do. On top of this, you can collect gear from winning cups such as new helmets, suits, and gloves. These also affect your stats in a variety of ways, making Evolution GT feel quite modern in that aspect. Whilst the game features a lot of customization of both your driver's look and stats, it does not feature any tuning for the cars themselves, as these are somewhat affected by the driver stats anyway. So let's talk about the presentation. Corvette Evolution GT doesn't exactly wow with its visuals. Even for 2006, textures are a bit basic, lighting is flat, and effects like smoke and tire marks are minimal. If we compare this to the game that we looked at last week, Ford Street Racing, another 2006 PS2 racer, I would say the car models and the tracks in that game look better visually than they do in this game. That said, the frame rate is nice and stable, and the car models are detailed enough to look convincing for the PS2. Now visually it's not the greatest, but how does it hold up in sound design? Well, it's very middle of the road. The engine audio is functional but lacks the visceral growl of other titles, and the soundtrack is mostly just generic background noise, and that's only on the menus because, ladies and gentlemen, we have another racer that has no music in the race. Why do developers do this? It just makes the game so much more boring than they have to be. I do understand that these are more budget titles, but why does any of that budget never go on music? Oh, it annoys me. Sorry guys, it would seem I'm just a bit passionate about my racing game music. Anyway, other than that, the menus are clean but fairly uninspired, which pretty much means the game in terms of design is just alright, it's fine, it's passable. There's nothing too flashy, it's just stats, cars and tracks, straight to business. So how does the game hold up in terms of its critical response? Well, when it launched, the game received kind of mixed reviews. There are only a couple of reviews for the PS2 version of the game I could find, as it doesn't have any reviews on Metacritic. IGN gave it like a 4 out of 10, but I don't really trust them whatsoever, and it had a 6.9 out of 10 on GameSpot. Most of the praise went into the depth of the RPG-style systems and its realistic car handling, but on the other hand, the criticism came for the bland visuals and just general boringness of the game. I think one of the game's biggest issues, especially in North America, was identity. The Corvette branding made it seem like it was going to be a game purely focused on Corvettes, like the Ford Racing branding, but it wasn't. It was just a rebrand to try and sell more copies of a game definitely not about Corvettes. As well as having little to no review scores, I also wasn't able to find any kind of sales figures for this game whatsoever. So sadly, we will never know how many people actually went out of their way to purchase Corvette Evolution GT, or just Evolution GT, but I don't think it will keep me up at night. Now, the time has come where we have to rank Corvette Evolution GT, and for me, this game is just meh. I do really like what it was going for with the RPG mechanics, and the idea of the intimidation, the rewind, the damage, everything in theory was a really good idea, but just the way it's all been implemented just isn't great. This was so close to being not that bad, but I just can't because it just is quite boring. It definitely had very good intentions, and there's a good game to be found somewhere in the mix, but there's just too much boredom in the middle. It certainly wasn't a genre definer, and it definitely didn't sell millions or inspire any sequels, but I have to respect it for trying something different. Anyway, that takes us to the end of our look at Corvette Evolution GT, and with it, the end of this episode of Worst Racing Games. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you would rank this game any differently, or if you have any other suggestions for terrible racing games, put it all in the comments down below. If you haven't done so already, then just make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap the bell for notifications to stay up to date with the Worst Racing Games series, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.